You're listening to the Bahá'í World News Service.
Now live at local house of worship.
Lingkod kay Baha'i.
During a recent visit to the Bahá'í World Centre, representatives from countries where Bahá'í community building efforts are contributing to profound changes in culture joined in conversation with the news service to discuss insights from localities where a pattern of vibrant community life is emerging. In this episode, we hear from Rey Elmo from Philippines.
They explore concepts like godly deeds, that how can they translate that into their daily actions.
Nazneen Rowhani from India.
The nature of the conversation now when I visit your home becomes more meaningful, becomes different, becomes relevant.
Jorge Guerreiro from Brazil.
They become protagonists of their own reality, of their own life.
Maria Simbowe from Tanzania.
It's not just the individuals coming together. The idea came into the level of a group of families.
And Confucius Ikoirere from Papua New Guinea.
The knowledge they're attaining is being applied in very practical ways to help their own communities and themselves.
From the Baha'i World News Service, this is In Conversation, a podcast series that explores experiences from Baha'i efforts to contribute to social progress, from the grassroots to the international level. The discussion, focusing on the characteristics of vibrant communities, began with the topic of prayer, exploring how praying together and reflecting on spiritual principles can be the seed for social change, transforming traditional relationships between individuals, communities, and institutions, and inviting new modes of collaboration.
One of the cultures you have in India is people pray. Another culture that people have in India is that they visit each other's homes. Everyone prays. But now that the nature of prayer is changing, the nature of prayer is where you not just sit together, but you pray together, then you reflect on that. When you say the words of the prayer, you think about it. You think about what are the implications on my life, on your life. And then when people learn, when people go to visit each other's homes, and we do that all the time, and we are very sociable, we are a very sociable lot. So I'll constantly pop over to your place. The nature of the conversation now when I visit your home becomes more meaningful, becomes different, becomes relevant. It becomes something that allows me to better my life. Where I speak about, say, why should my daughter, who traditionally, if I didn't have money, would not go to a school, why should she now go to a school? Because you begin to realize that you cannot have equality without justice. When you discuss these things in these small home visits, that also in a way then begins to impact the life of that community.
The power of these prayers is something unimaginable, really. And something that is very impressive is how they can benefit from these prayers, because they trust them so much and they can see the change in themselves, and they start sharing those with others, with their neighbors, with their friends, with their families. It's not that they're just praying, but they feel capacity in their own selves. And they find out the power of these rich conversations they are starting to have after having access to the teachings of Baha'u'llah, and how these things empower them. This completely changes their lives and changes their culture naturally.
In a way, like when the family prays together, So the strong bond within that family is also, it becomes solid, no? Now they learn to consult each other to see how can they help each other's problem and challenges. So somehow on that way, when they pray together, they able to address what are their needs and to be really concerned for each other. But I like to share in one of the communities in this household where then the family prays together. The children in that household become also prayerful. They really like to memorize prayers, to learn prayers. And when the people come together and pray, all these children, they chant prayers. There is an effect within that environment that also reflects in their attitude. Now they become humble, thankful also, and very courteous to their adult ones in the
The
community.
parents notice these changes. They
Yeah.
notice these changes.
Now the mothers are now talking about the education of the children, not like they're talking about anyone's the neighbor's problem, their neighbor's mistake. Now the conversation is improved to a more meaningful conversation that is very also useful to the community.
Spaces for collective prayer in various settings create opportunities for friends, family members, and neighbors to reflect on both the material and spiritual needs of their communities, often leading to social action initiatives of varying degrees of complexity that seek to, in some way, better the lives of all.
It's like this one community in Papua New Guinea where the influence of this devotional character we're talking about, people getting together to say prayers, and then children studying the Word of God and engaged in that particular way of learning, has influenced the community to start thinking about how they should improve their village setting. So you see now in this particular village, they're thinking about the cleanliness of the village. Rubbish is not thrown everywhere, but they've dug pits to put rubbish in, and thinking about proper toilets. And so the conversation, like you're saying, has progressed from just saying prayers to what can we do for our community. And we were learning too that another neighboring village has seen what's happening, and they've also followed the example.
Like we have seen a lot of changes, even in habits that were so much rooted in traditions. So for example, in one of these rural communities, they started gathering together for these prayers. They are now thinking about other aspects of their lives. Looking at the houses they were living in, it was rare to find a house that is roofed with just iron sheets. But now it came through their consultation, they were like, no, we need to change our lifestyle. We need even to change the houses. But what do we do? And you find that the communities of that kind, even the poverty level is so high. So they started little projects of which when they earn money, then they contribute to one person, they buy sheets, then they roof, and then they go to another person. So this really, it was like a simple thing, but it brought a lot of change. Now a lot of members of that community are participating in these devotional gatherings.
You know, in India, traditionally, spirituality has been seen as me asking God for something. But here it's kind of evolved much more, and spirituality is more about how my progress, my spiritual progress, is very interdependent, is very interlinked with how I can assess your spiritual progress. When the relationship between community, individuals in the community, and the institutions becomes dynamic, and it's based on spiritual qualities, like I said, of trust, of cooperation, each one of them is able to perform their own function better. Those powers actually get multiplied. They can't act in isolation of each other. We have seen that when people understand that what matters is their soul and not the physical body. The differences that the caste system brings tend to dissolve. We learn to relate to each other as human beings and not as different castes. So this is one thing that we've seen, where people in these small spaces come together, they pray. When you pray together, the next step is you eat together. When you eat together, you know what I mean. If you look at what the Baha'i writings teach us, is that if you do not have spiritual advancement, then where's the development really? And I think that's what makes a life vibrant.
And when we talk about vibrant communities, of course, all of us were talking about learning, as you said. Because then people are not passively awaiting for someone to come and bring things, right? No, the other way around. They take ownership, they become protagonists of their own reality, of their own life. And the change that we see in people, they see a future for themselves, for their family, for their neighbors, for the whole community.
We've seen in these villages that the ages of maybe 12 to 15 or 16, that has traditionally been regarded as troublesome, as irresponsible, they have actually earned the admiration of their parents. We have seen that their patterns of behavior do not conform to what other young people in that age group are like. Young people in this age group have very heightened spiritual powers, because that's what youth is. It's a period of vibrancy. It's a period of strength. So how has this materialized into the kind of vibrancy or strength that has transformed their community, that has bettered their communities? Do you all have any examples of young people in this age group who have become assets to their community?
There is this one community where now when it is raining, they have a lot of vegetables, for example. But then when it is not raining, there's scarcity of vegetables. So this group of young youth meet together and study, and then they discuss what they can do to their community. Then they say, despite that there is no much water, let's see if we can have a garden. They start just a simple garden of which they get vegetables, then they sell. So in that way they help their community, but again, they get something to buy their school needs. And for example, in this one neighborhood, where there are a lot of youth who have lost hope, looking for job, they can't find it anywhere. But now they are finding meaning of life in that service.
In one of the communities in my region, there is a group of young ones who are studying together, but it also they like to explore what can they do for their community. So there is one group that they really planted trees, along the street, because if you walk on the street, there's no shade. So these youths, they really think that how can they help the community walking in the street, that someday it will not expose to too much heat, and there's a shade for the elder ones who walk on this. So they planted trees on this street also. And there are also like a river that there is no bridge. How they consulted to the adult ones in the community that how can we build a bridge for in this portion of the river, so that the elder ones can easily go to the other side of the bridge. And it's really heartening to see that at a very early age, they were able to think what can they do for the betterment of their community.
You know, actually, we are seeing that it's becoming a generational thing. You see young people having this spirit of service, who take upon themselves willingly. You see in many places youth providing tutorial assistance to those who, for whatever reason, have not had the benefit of an uninterrupted academic education. You have instances where they have managed to get the community, once the community realizes the benefit of having their children spiritually educated, of having their young people work within a framework that allows them to make correct moral choices, then the parents become involved. So then you have generations going through these processes of empowerment, of spiritualization, of service, and that's when you see the transformation.
You've been listening to In Conversation, a podcast series from the Baha'i World News Service. For more podcasts and stories, visit news.baha'i.org.